And I'm going to catch up with the coordinator for the Formula Fords. Now, this is a race series that's coming up in just a few minutes. Around 10 minutes, we're going to see the race for the Formula Ford guys. And to find out a little bit more, let's head over this way and catch up with the championship coordinator, Ian Smith. So I'm going to jump straight into Ian. We've got Formula Fords coming up very, very soon. We have to shout over the noise behind us. But tell us a little bit about Formula Ford.
Well, it's been going 51 years now. Probably the most popular single-seater series worldwide. There's various championships. We're the national championship for the BRSCC. But this weekend there's also been a meeting at Brands Hatch and a meeting at Castle Combe. So there are loads of Formula Fords about the place. But we're sort of quite international. We've got 3 drivers here this weekend from the USA. A Frenchman, a Belgian, and there was a Swiss who's not out this afternoon. Got a few Scots, some from Southern Ireland, and it's still seen as a stepping stone. We've got people stepping back from F4, which is on the touring car package, to come into Formula Ford because A, it's cheaper, and B, they will learn more, and any team owner will tell them that. And if anybody is interested, they can check the Formula Ford National on www.brSCCFF1600.co.uk and find out all you want to know about it. But if you sort of keep watching this channel here today, you'll see our final reverse grid race of the weekend, and you know, it's going to be good. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, and what makes the series so exciting is that there's no rear wing, which means there's no downforce, so the cars are very, very twitchy under braking, very exciting when it comes on the acceleration, and it always means really close racing as well.
Well, it does, and it teaches the young drivers an awful lot, because when they get into slicks and downforce, it's almost like driving a go-kart, and it's relatively easy. If they learn in a Formula Ford 1600 on the one pattern tyre and the no downforce, when they move up, they will be a lot better than if they hadn't done it in the first place.
And of course, when it comes to the Formula Ford and the Formula Ford Festival, the BRSCC Formula Ford Festival, that's something that's been won by quite a high calibre of driver over the years. So people have gone on to be world champions.
Yes, you know, Johnny Herbert's won it, and Michael Schumacher didn't win it. He managed to crash in the heat. Maybe I shouldn't mention that. But people like Nigel Mansell have done the festival back in the day. Jensen Button has done the festival, and you know, a lot of the clubby type drivers say, well, I've raced on the same grid as these people, and it's on the last weekend in October this year, and it'll be the 49th festival, I think it is. The first one was in 1972. That makes 47, doesn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Just a bit of quick maths, yeah.
Yeah, the first 4 were held at Snetterton, and ever since it's been at Brands Hatch. And since it's been at Brands in 1976, I've missed 2 of them. So I'm a bit of an anorak where Formula Ford's concerned.
It's a fantastic festival. I've been lucky enough to present at it over the last few years. I haven't been there for a number of years, but I do urge you, if you're in the Brands Hatch area, come end of October, do get there, because the whole day is just incredible. Racing is brilliant. Ian, I know you've got to go up to you're going to the commentary booth. Is that just to watch, oversee proceedings, or to get involved on the mic?
A bit of both. Andy Fraser's there, and he likes handing over the mic. So he's a bit of a lazy man.
Oh, there you go. You heard it here first. I'll let you go off because it's a bit of a walk from here. Thank you very much, Editor Ian Smith. If you want to find out more, just go onto the BRSCC website and you'll find it there. FF1600. You'll find everything you need to know about Formula Fords. Cars are coming into the pits now. Ian, I'll let you go. You can dash off now. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll catch you later. We have got the Formula Fords coming up in just a second. I'm going to try and spin round here without getting hit by any cars. We've got cars coming into the garage. It is obviously a live pit, and as you see them coming in now, it means we are getting ready for the Formula Ford race, the second race, the final race for them of the day, in fact, from Croft. And as Ian was saying, always a lot of drama. Very, very close racing, because there's no rear wing, because they all run on the same tyres, the cars are exactly the same. There is, well, it's very little ways that you can actually improve a car. They all work in exactly the same way. There is no downforce. So they get very close. It's very twitchy. There's no dirty air. It's very exciting racing. And to talk us through the build-up, let's hand over to our race commentator. We saw him a few minutes ago here in the pits talking about TCR and the TCT. It's Andy McEwen.
Right on cue, Bryn. I've just dived into my box. I got caught by Lewis Kent on the way in, who was still waiting to get back into the pit lane, but he is on his way now and was very, 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 very happy with his race 1 result. And why wouldn't he be? Because a first ever victory in TCR UK is very much something to shout about. So we'll see Lewis back in action again a bit later on in our second TCR race of the day, the 6th round of the championship. Before then, though, we have more single-seater action with the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship heading onto the circuit momentarily. And they produced an intriguing race earlier on today, if not necessarily filled with the usual 2 and 3 abreast, overtaking at every corner sort of action that we sometimes see from Formula Fords. But it was a fairly respectful race, and all of the cars came out of it in one piece, and this will be the third and final race of the weekend for the Formula Fords, and I predict we could have quite a bit of action. It's a reversed grid as well, remember, so that means that we're guaranteed some overtaking from the quicker drivers that are having to come through from towards the back of the field, perhaps, or not towards the very back, but towards the back end of the top 10, and they'll all be busy fighting amongst themselves, of course, because those drivers trying to make progress from lowly grid positions are some of the title contenders. And it was a top 6 grid reversal, which was actually, I think, the smallest possible number of positions that were reversed based upon our previous race result. And so actually things could have worked out a little bit worse for the likes of Ross Martin, double race winner so far this weekend, James Clark and Rory Smith, who have joined him on the podium in both races, albeit in different positions. It was Rory Smith second in race 1, third in race 2, and then James Clark with a repeat of that as well. So those cars will be heading out onto the circuit very shortly. We mentioned that wind that's blowing quite stiffly down the pit straight. We can see the flags there moving around in the breeze down in the pit lane. Now that is a pretty strong headwind down to the first corner and a tailwind down the back straight towards Tower. Now, when we were talking about the wind, we were talking about it in relation to TCR cars and how they don't necessarily have to worry too much about the slipstream, but slipstreaming in Formula Ford racing is one of the biggest elements of the race that can really decide who comes out on top, and with a headwind the slipstream effect is exaggerated. So whereas traditionally you'll be looking more for the toe down the back straight into Tower, this time around it may well be up the pit straight. We start to see that slipstream really start to take effect. So could be an interesting race this. Another 15 minutes of Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship racing coming up momentarily. Jamie Sharp has been drawn on pole position for this one. And Jamie, former British Formula 4 runner, and he is drawn on pole position and could rather do with a good result, really, because Jamie is was 8th in the points coming into this weekend. He's had a solid, if unspectacular, weekend, really, with a 7th in race 1 and a 6th in race 2. So a podium would go down very nicely now for Jamie Sharp in his Van Diemen. But he'll face some stiff competition. Spike Kohlbecker will be alongside him, the American driver. Now, this arguably is the race for Spike to get a good result out of. He has had a trying weekend. Arrived here, second in the points, just 3 points behind Ross Martin. Well, Ross Martin has had 2 race victories and 2 fastest laps as well, worth bonus points also. Whereas Spike Kohlbecker has had a 6th and a 5th. So even by my basic mathematics, that gap has now extended between Ross Martin and Spike Kohlbecker, and in fact, Neil McLennan has closed the gap as well, and will be potentially knocking on the door of second place in the championship now, with Spike Kohlbecker slightly off pace, uncharacteristically off pace weekend for the American. But Spike starts on the front row this time around. He will have Neil McLennan right behind him, though, third on the grid for Neil McLennan, the number 25 car, and Rory Smith, with whom he did battle throughout most of the previous race, and in fact was briefly ahead of until the final couple of laps when Neil went for a move for second that didn't work, and Rory was able to come through and nick that third place away. So McLennan will be third on the grid, Rory Smith will be fourth, James Clark and Ross Martin will share the third row of the grid, the top 2 from the previous race. Ross Martin looking to do the hat-trick, which is not easy to do in such a competitive field. Then we've got the driver that just missed out on the grid reversal, Jonathan Brown. He will line up 7th on the grid with Brendan Lee alongside, and Brendan Lee started right at the back for race number 2, and came through to finish in 8th position. Brendan's had a bit of an up and down season. His season, and indeed his car racing career, started with a bang, quite literally, at Snetterton, with a fairly substantial off into the barriers. Since then, he's really worked on his race pace, worked on his consistency as well, and cutting down on some of the mistakes, and he may have had a slightly disappointing opening race of the weekend, where he clearly had issues and started and finished at the back, but came through nicely in race 2. Row 5 for John Svensson and Morgan Quinn. Then Michael McPherson and Adrian Lassac are on the 6th row. Row 7 for Adam Quartermain and Nicole Woods. Row 8, Jamie Thorburn, he's one to watch out for. Jamie, in the first race, was inside the top 10, but then unfortunately was a non-finisher, or was classified a finisher, but 2 laps down in race number 2, with Aaron Johnson and Carter Williams, the American, at the back. Carter also, I think, should make some good ground up from there. He was also a top 10 runner. In fact, he was battling with Jamie Thorburn for a position just inside the top 10 in yesterday's race, and both of them now having to come through from towards the tail of the field. There's James Clark then. There is our double race winner, number 11, Ross Martin. And can he get the hat-trick then? The Scottish driver will have his work cut out to do that, but I don't know. I think he's got half a chance here. If he can make a good start, gain a few off the line, or through the first sequence of corners, that will be a lot of the hard work done. He'll need to, first of all, get ahead of James Clark and Rory Smith and try and be the first of the really quick drivers coming through, but all of the top 5 or 6 drivers on the grid, if you give them clear air, are probably capable of taking race victories. So it could be that we see one of those drivers on the top step of the podium. The question is, which one? And that we don't know. Revs starting to rise there, the lights go out, and for the final time this weekend, the Avon Tyres National Formula 4s are underway. There was a bad start from someone a bit further back, but at the head of the field, it looks like it will be Jamie Sharp that goes toe-to-toe with Spike Goldbecker into the first corner. Goldbecker trying to get around the outside line. He really could do with getting into the lead, but he can't quite get through. Jamie Sharp hangs on to it. Goldbecker in second position. Who's that in third? Is that McLennan? I think it is. And Ross Martin into fourth already. The double race winner this weekend already passed 2 cars, and they were the 2 most important cars to get past, arguably, because they were James Clark and Rory Smith, his 2 nearest competitors thus far this weekend. So the white car in 4th position, having a really good start indeed, and they're already starting to play at the front of the field as Spike Goldbecker tries to go around the outside of Jamie Sharp, leaves a gap on the inside for Neil McLennan, but Neil didn't have the traction off Tower Corner and has to settle back in behind. Right then, now we have a real race on our hands, I think, as the leaders turn through the Jim Clark S's down towards Barcroft, this high-speed far end of the circuit where we do have this quite stiff crosswind that's blowing across the road. Through Tower, 2, or we've got 7 of them, I was about to say 2 or 3 for the lead. It's actually 7 cars fighting for the race lead, and they are, I think, the top 7 cars from the previous couple of races as well. Number 24, they're running a bit wide, that's Aaron Johnson towards the tail end of the field, although he has gained some ground for his 16th place starting position. There's more change because that's the 77 car of James Clark getting out into the dirt, and into 3rd place now I think has gone Ross Martin. So McLennan has lost ground there to Martin, I think, and I reckon that James Clark was trying to take advantage. The order then at the end of the first lap will not be at all what we expected it to be. There is Jamie Sharp, he leads the way. 2nd place Spike Goldbecker, 3rd position though for Ross Martin from 6th on the grid, and all of a sudden the prospect of a hat-trick of victories looks a little more realistic. Neil McLennan is 4th, James Clark is 5th, Rory Smith is in 6th position, and Brendan Lee is 7th ahead of Jonathan Brown. So that's also been a change on the opening lap. Well, race 1 may have been a fairly pedestrian affair compared to what we're used to in this championship, but they're already making up for it in race number 3. Down onto the brakes, into Tower Corner. James Clark, the number 77 car, race leader on the grass. That won't help. I was about to make the point that all of this scrapping going on for 2nd place had allowed Jamie Sharp to pull away, but if he keeps rallycrossing like that, he will very quickly find that they're back on his tail. It's Spike Goldbecker doing chase, but Spike just doesn't have the speed, it would appear, to chase down Jamie at this stage of the race, despite the little mistake that Jamie just made. Through Sunny, sliding the cars through the 2 right-handers. And then on the short shoot towards the complex is that gap between the leaders coming down. I think it may be, but the gap that we really need to watch for here is the one between 2nd and 3rd, because Spike Goldbecker has got his arch championship rival Ross Martin behind him. If Spike can't beat Ross in this, the reverse grid race, a race in which he started 5 places in front of him on the grid, then you have to question when he will be able to beat him, because Ross Martin really, well, no one really expected to see him make this sort of progress. But look at that, he's into third, and he's set the fastest lap as well, and now he's using that headwind down the pit straight to get a nice toe into the first corner. Couldn't go around the outside, couldn't cut back to the inside either, and so for the time being Kohlbecker hangs on, but it's all allowing Jamie Sharp to pull away at the head of the field. Through the chicane they'll go again. Now they're into that tailwind, so the slipstream actually maybe not quite as effective here, but Ross Martin will do his best if he can to pull alongside. I'm almost certain he will only be shown the outside line though. Indeed that's the case, and that is too risky an option because Neil McLennan's right behind him. Ross Martin needs to box clever here, because whilst he can see the opportunity to get second, and he probably would have the pace to challenge Jamie Sharp for the victory, third place is better than an on-finish, and he's already scored some good points today. He doesn't now want to undo all of that with an off or a collision or going for a move that loses him a few spots if it doesn't work. So whilst going for the race victory is tempting, no doubt, and I still think a definite possibility, he can kind of afford to take his time, but he's not taking his time. He dives to the inside. What a move that was on Spike Kohlbecker, who runs out wide and allows Neil McLennan through as well. So Martin goes second and McLennan into third. Kohlbecker trying to fight back up the inside into the hairpin, locks up the brakes, almost tags the tail of the Neil McLennan number 25 car in front. But Spike Kohlbecker, this has been a bit of a disappointing weekend. He really is in danger now of losing second place in the points, because McLennan, the man right in front of him, was applying the pressure points-wise coming into this race, and now is ahead of him on track as well. And that may not be the end of the misery here for the American, because the Cliff Dempsey racing car has got company from Rory Smith and from James Clark and from Brendan Lee and Jonathan Brown. They're all starting to queue up behind him now as they head onto the back straight once again. So that now frees up Ross Martin to set off after Jamie Sharp, and Jonathan Brown's on the grass and he's heading for the farmer's field, I'm afraid. Off he goes, Jonathan Brown. Oh, he catches the gravel actually, which is good in a way that it stops the car, but it's bad because it buries the car, and I don't think he's too happy about that. I didn't see the start of that. There were three abreast, I think, and somehow it was Clark that ended up in the gravel. And James, who had this really consistent weekend so far, was fourth in the points arriving here. And sadly, it's all gone to pot now, and he's out of the race. And that is a disaster, really. For here's a replay. Oh, he sort of ran into the, well, not into the back, but ran up on the back of Spike Kohlbecker. And it was almost that he braked later than the cars in front, but then had nowhere to go and sort of had to go onto the grass to avoid running straight into the back of his championship rival. So now what's going on with Rory Smith? He's waving out. Safety car's coming out. Safety car is being scrambled, I think. So unsurprisingly, really, with the car in a dangerous position, we have, I think, our first safety car of the day. I don't think we've had one yet, have we? Oh, maybe one in an early support race, but it's certainly our first for the Formula Fords. And the safety car then is scrambled, which means that, although I think it was starting to come down anyway, but any gap that Jamie Sharp did have over Ross Martin has now been eradicated completely. Trouble is that Ross had been pulling away from Neil McLennan, and that now also gets undone. Hopefully it won't be a particularly lengthy safety car though, and we should be able to get racing underway again for too much longer. Right, gives us a chance to catch our breath and also to run you down the order. So Jamie Sharp leads the way from pole position after that really good start, and sort of took advantage of everybody else falling over themselves to get into second place. Into second place now, though, is Ross Martin, the points leader, double winner already this weekend. Neil McLennan is third, and arguably now the only man you would feel is capable legitimately of challenging Ross at the front of the field. But he's in third place. He's in touch with the top two. Spike Kohlbecker dropping down to fourth. Fifth place for Rory Smith, and sixth now for Brendan Lee. So that's got to be getting on for one of his best finishes of the year so far as well. So Brendan Lee into the sixth position. Jonathan Brown is seventh. Eighth place is John Svensson. Ninth place then for Morgan Quinn. And rounding out the top 10 will be Adrian Lissac. And Brendan Lee will be the leading rookie. Morgan Quinn in ninth place, second in the rookie category. So unlikely that those two are going to get themselves together. But the safety car might give Morgan an opportunity to maybe regroup, and there you see him go through the grey and blue car, number 88, second in the rookie standings at the moment. So these reverse grid races often do provide drama, and we've had plenty of it, and what a shame that was for James Clark. Oh, there he is, the Cliff Dempsey machine being, or about to be, unceremoniously hoiked out of the gravel. It's not a particularly deep gravel trap, but the gravel here at Croft, it's odd. I did a track walk a few weeks ago here at Croft, and the stones in the gravel are perfectly round. They're almost like ball bearings, whereas usually they're sort of more jagged kind of stone, if you see what I mean. Anyway, point being, they're particularly slippery, and when it gets dragged out onto the circuit, it loses you even more grip than some of the gravel we see at other circuits would do. Also, I would imagine, makes it more difficult to find purchase once you're buried in it. So there was no real way there that we were going to get James Clark out without some outside assistance, hence the need for the safety car to be scrambled. Now, for James Clark, Jamie Sharp, excuse me, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because yes, Ross Martin has been able to close onto his gearbox, but I sense that he was probably going to be with him within a lap or so anyway. Actually, every lap that we have behind the safety car now is reducing the amount of time that Ross Martin and Neil McLennan and Spike Colbecker will have to challenge Sharp for the race victory here. Jamie is, as Scott Woodward's just confirmed to me, looking for his first victory of the year as well. So Jamie Sharp, who is a quick pedaler, we know that, and had progressed fairly high up the single-seater racing tree, has not yet won in this season's National Formula 4 Championship. And here he is, leading the way, time ticking away. But as I had forgotten until I just saw the time change at the top of the screen, we do have the option with these 15-minute Formula Ford races to add some time on if we get a safety car. So I think they've added 5 minutes on by the looks of it to basically make up for the lost time behind the safety car. So forget everything I just said about how this was playing into the hands of Jamie Sharp. Actually, no, this has been a complete disaster for Jamie Sharp, because now not only is Ross Martin on his tail, so is everybody else, and he will still have to defend for the best part of 10 minutes. This could get very lively indeed. How much of a risk will Ross Martin be willing to take here, knowing that he has these 2 race wins in the bag already? A second place would go along very nicely with them. However, when you're on form and your championship contenders aren't, you need to try and take full advantage of that. And if we get to the end of the season and Ross Martin loses out on the championship by a handful of points, he will always look back at the races where he didn't go for it and wonder what if. Right then, safety car into the pit lane, 9.5 minutes left on the clock, and the third and final race of the weekend for the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 gets back underway, and Ross Martin is on the attack already and drives around the outside of Jamie Sharp into turn 1. That was a brilliant restart there for Ross Martin. He reacted well to the race getting back underway, got a nice tow down the straight, and Ross Martin, well, all of the hypothetical conversation we've just had matters little now, because he's in the lead and already starting to scorch away. Neil McLennan now needs to get on with this if he can. Get ahead of Jamie Sharp for second place. He looks to the outside line, won't go right around the outside. What about a switchback manoeuvre on the exit? He's going to try. He's there. Yes, Neil McLennan gets alongside, challenging for second place. Careful not to bang wheels. Surely they can't run side by side through the Jim Clark S's. Maybe they can. No, Neil McLennan had to back out of it in the end. You do not want to make contact there, and that loss of momentum brings Spike Colbecker back onto his gearbox, and he might yet have a chance to challenge to get back onto the podium. Well, still trying to get over that restart for Ross Martin. That was absolutely spectacular. I spoke about that headwind down the pit straight and how it further exaggerates that slipstream effect, and I think that's what we saw there, combined with a really good restart for Martin. He was on his toes and took full advantage, and now if he can break the toe, that might be the last we see of him. Breaking the toe, though, is not always that easy, and Jamie Sharp will now have the advantage of the slipstream to an extent, at least down the pit straight, but he's definitely dropping back, and he may be watching his mirrors now more than he's looking out in front of him. Across the line they go. Fastest lap for Ross Martin. Who's surprised? Not me. A 1:26.524 is on a par more or less with what they were doing in the previous race. McLennan tries that same move around the outside and couldn't do it. That's interesting. So clearly Ross Martin's got something that the others haven't, and he was able to get ahead of Jamie Sharp before they even reached the braking zone for the first corner. So Sharp down to second. Now can he hang on to second position? Well, that lockup won't help. Can he get the car stopped? No, he's sideways, and Neil McLennan's up the inside. Oh, Jamie Sharp, well, eventually the pressure told. He loses second, he loses third, and he loses fourth position as well, I think, because it looked as though the Rory Smith car was coming through as well. Yes, it has. So he's all the way down now to fifth position, is Jamie Sharp, off the podium, sadly. And Jamie will not be happy about that, but he was just under immense pressure, knew he had to brake as late as he dared, I don't think there was contact between the two of them. It was hard to tell. They were certainly very close together, he and Neil McLennan. Either way, the end result is that Sharp goes off wide and is now, I think he's lost his momentum. He's under all sorts of pressure now from Brendan Lee, is that behind him. Number 72. Yep, Brendan Lee, the white and blue car behind, trying to get through. This is for fifth position now. Out of the hairpin they go. Couldn't quite get the exit though. Jonathan Brown there behind him as well. So Jonathan Brown's lost some ground here off the restart as well, I think. Down into 7th place now. So through the first corner goes Neil McLennan then. Into 2nd place now. Spike Colbecker 3rd. If he can hang on to a podium, at least that's something that he'll salvage out of the weekend, but he'll be disappointed to be behind his two main championship rivals yet again. But he's still got another 6.25 minutes left to try and hang on to that, and Rory Smith is probably going to start closing in on him now. And it's Jamie Sharp, Brendan Lee, Jonathan Brown, John Svensson, Morgan Quinn, and rounding out the top 10 is Jamie Thorburn. So I thought Jamie Thorburn might make some progress, and indeed he has. Oh, Jamie Sharp's on the grass again. He's definitely got a bit rattled now, hasn't he, after losing those positions. A lap ago at Tower, and he runs wide all of his own accord that time. There goes Thorburn, the white-fronted car with the blue body, and then behind, another nice battle going on here. This, I think, is the one for 12th place, is it not? Yep, Carter Williams in 12th, and behind him, number 16 car also trying to get through is Michael McPherson. Those two, what are their best results so far today, I wonder? Well, I'll come back to that in a moment because someone was on the grass in the background, and I think they all gathered it together. Morgan Quinn's best results so far, 11th in race 1 and 10th in race 2. 55, Carter Williams there coming through, the Oldfield car. He's had a troubled day, or troubled weekend. Although yesterday's pace was half decent, but that issue that he had in the previous race that put him out of the race early on, and that he started this one at the back, and he hasn't really made a huge amount of progress. Started 17th, he's into 12th, but not looking likely to trouble the top 10 for the time being. So under 5 minutes to go then in this slightly extended race. Carter Williams a bit wide there through the first corner, but no way through for Michael McPherson behind. Down that straight they all go. Jonathan Brown there weaving around as they head down to Tower Corner there. Spike Colbecker. Now Spike seems able to stay with Neil McLennan a bit better in this race than we've seen in previous encounters. So is he going to be able maybe to retaliate and retake that 2nd place? Jonathan Brown trying to get past Brendan Lee, who just fends him off through the Jim Clark S's. It's a tantalising camera angle that. You can't quite tell if they've stuck it out side by side or not, but in the end Brown had ducked back in line. Decided better of running side by side. If you're fighting for the race lead on the last lap, then yeah, maybe you brave it out, but those two scrapping over 6th place with still 4 minutes to go, I think decided between themselves that they would save those risky manoeuvres for a bit later in the race perhaps. Jonathan Brown there, the Cliff Dempsey machine. Cliff Dempsey has been involved in Formula Ford racing from pretty much the beginning, and still a great advocate of the formula. Still is the place to go really if you come out of karting as a youngster and you want to make a career in single-seater racing. You can't really beat Formula Ford 1600 racing as a starting point for your circuit racing career. So many stars of Formula 1 and even sports car racing have come out of Formula Ford. In fact, Formula Ford have produced champions pretty much across all disciplines in motorsport, because it does teach you all of the fundamental things you need to know about driving a racing car. Back down the straight towards Tower they go. There goes Morgan Quinn, the grey and blue car. Jamie Thorburn behind him as up the road. Now, Jonathan Brown really had a big go there, getting up the inside of Brendan Lee. And that defensive move from Brendan Lee has allowed Jamie Sharp just to pull a few car lengths advantage again. So, Jonathan Brown clearly feels he's quicker here, and probably is as well. He out-qualified Brendan this weekend, but Brendan driving well. And again, goes to show that despite the fact he didn't have coming into the season any circuit racing experience, real life circuit racing experience at least, goes to show you really do learn your craft even on simulators and such like. And he clearly knows how to race, knows how to defend as well, does Brendan, as he's proving now by keeping Jonathan Brown behind. This is not the easiest of circuits to overtake, at granted, but with the slipstreaming potential of these cars, you still have to be wary and keep your wits about you to be able to position your car in the right place to hold on to the position. So, back across the line. 2 more laps to go by my reckoning. Ross Martin looking good for the race victory here. Neil McLennan Still hanging on to second. Spike Colbecker third, Rory Smith fourth. Best of the battles at the moment, still this one for sixth position. Ooh, and this is a pretty decent one as well, as Jamie Thorburn has got past Morgan Quinn now. And that must have happened into the first corner, because at the line it was Quinn ahead, but the blue and white car ahead of the blue and grey car means that Thorburn has now gone through into that 8th position, but Quinn is fighting back now, draws alongside down the back straight, better exit from the chicane, nice toe as well, but Thorburn wiggling around under braking will get into Tower Corner first. Does he come out of Tower Corner first-ish? Quinn tried to get alongside, but no, couldn't quite do it. And so it will be Thorburn who holds on to the position. That's probably as good as it will get, though, now, because there's quite a gap to the Brendan Lee, Jonathan Brown battle in front of them, several seconds, in fact. So unlikely that he will be able to gain any further ground, really. Minute and 10 seconds left on the clock. 35 goes through. That's John Svensson, who's been there or thereabouts at the back end of the top 10 all weekend as well. Through the complex they will come, and about to go on to the final lap. Jamie Thorburn not afraid to dance that car around at some ridiculous angles, but I'm not convinced that was the fastest way through the complex. Locks up and runs wide of the apex of the hairpin as well. Morgan Quinn, if he really thinks about this, I think could go back through here. Thorburn is looking a bit scrappy as he tries to break away, and if he keeps making mistakes like that, eventually the door will open. Morgan Quinn will try and get alongside, no doubt, into the first corner, which he may have done. No, not quite. Thorburn hanging on. Thorburn, another name synonymous with Formula 4 1600 racing as well. And some real pedigree on this grid, must be said. And Jamie Thorburn is no slouch. You know, he's a good driver. And to see him scrapping over a position towards the back of the top 10 goes to show just how competitive this grid is. This battle looks fairly feisty, doesn't it, as well, between Jamie Sharp, Brendan Lee and Jonathan Brown. Brendan has caught Jamie now. This is the fight for 5th position. Through the S's. Barcroft next. What about a lunge up the inside at Sunny? It is the last lap after all, but Brendan wasn't quite close enough, hoping to coax Jamie Sharp into braking a bit too late, running wide, but it doesn't work out. And they're now running out of corners because they're coming into the final couple of corners, and that was a change there, a late change for 3rd place. Rory Smith getting ahead of Spike Colbecker. Yeah, there we go, the number 5 car dropping down a position. We didn't see how that started, but we can see how it ended with Colbecker off the podium, and that is a real disaster. It's a typical end to what has been a pretty disappointing weekend. Not for Ross Martin, though, because he comes through and I think has seen the checkered flag. The time has elapsed now at the top of our screens. Can't see the checkered flag there, but I think that Ross Martin has come through. Yes, there it is. Good stuff. So he has taken the victory. Neil McLennan in 2nd position. And Rory Smith picks the pocket of Spike Colbecker on the final lap and stands on the podium once again. So it won't quite be the same podium finish as we've had from the previous races, because double podium finisher James Clark ended that race in the kitty litter. But Neil McLennan takes his place in 2nd position. Colbecker 4th, then Sharp holds on to 5th ahead of Brendan Lee and Jonathan Brown, so no change in the order there. Thorburn was 8th, Quinn was 9th, and John Svensson hangs on to 10th. So no real change in the order then further back, but quite a notable one for 3rd position. Confirmation then of that result, a 3-second winning margin for Ross Martin. He's won all 3 races this weekend by more than 3 seconds. That was actually the tightest of the winning margins, but only fractionally, and still in Formula 4 terms it's a very comfortable margin of victory indeed. Neil McLennan in 2nd, Rory Smith 3rd, gets some good points as well. Rory came into the weekend down in 6th in points, so needed that result. Spike Colbecker could have done with better as well. He was down in 4th. Jamie Sharp 5th, then Brendan Lee, Jonathan Brown. Jamie Thorburn from the back to 8th was a good drive. Morgan Quinn 9th, and John Svensson rounds out the top 10. Outside the top 10, Carter Williams 11th, Adrian Lassac is 12th, and Michael McPherson, Aaron Johnson, Nicole Woods, Adam Quartermain round out the finishers, with James Clark sadly depositing himself in the gravel down at Tower Corner and out of the race early on. Well, really enjoyable racing there. That was definitely the best of the races we've had today for the Formula Fords, arguably over the weekend, but that's what a reversed grid will give you, or a partially reversed grid at least. But there was no stopping Ross Martin, and that is ominous now. 3 wins from 3 here at Croft. That doesn't happen too often, and if ever there were a circuit where you would expect that reversed grid to have hampered him, it would be here at Croft, because it is hard to overtake here, probably harder to overtake at Croft than any other circuit we race at. And yet he got into about 3rd or 4th by the end of the opening lap. At 3rd place, I think he was, wasn't he, by the end of the opening lap, and then into second, and then what a restart, and that is what I hope Bryn will be able to ask him about down there when we get our podium interviews, because that restart was where really he made the most pivotal move of the race into that race lead that he would never give up until the checkered flag. So great driving there from Ross Martin, 3 wins from 3, and he now comfortably moves ahead in the championship points race. Now, who will be second? That's the next question. There were 20 points between Colbecker and McLennan coming into this weekend, and Colbecker has finished behind McLennan, sometimes by several positions, in each race. Well, there is the Team Dolan driver, our triple race winner, Ross Martin. You can see what that means to him. That emotion is real, and Ross, who does wear his heart on his sleeve sometimes, but that's a good quality as far as I'm concerned in a racing driver, and it's great to see what that means to him. Look at that. That is, you don't see that sort of emotion always out of racing drivers, particularly at club level, but this is, whilst the club championship very much, it is, as we've touched upon, a really significant championship, and if you can win it, and if you can win lots of races in it, it catches the attention of all the right people. And Ross Martin, I'm certain, is catching people's attentions this season, and especially this weekend. Ian Smith is on hand there to make the presentations in a moment or two, but before that, let's have a word with our triple race winner, Ross Martin.
Well, you can see some very, very emotional scenes here. If we look at the top 3, I'm going to run straight down to, let's go a little bit further on. We'll come back in a minute to our race winner, and we'll continue a little bit further down and get another word from some of the other drivers. Let's go straight to second place, Neil McLennan. Here he is. Let's go a quick word from Neil. Well, Neil, in the first race today, it looked like you were going to be taking a step on the podium, but it didn't quite happen at the end, but you've made it this time.
No, thank you very much. No, the second race today wasn't very good. Lost second gear going into the last corner on the last lap. So.
Oh, is that what happened? We couldn't work it out from the outside.
Oh, yeah, it was a bit my fault as well, but yeah, that's what happened. So, but no, we're happy enough with race 3. More points in the bag as well, so no, overall happy enough.
Yeah, good race for you. No major troubles.
No major troubles at all. Just trying to keep up with Ross is a bit hard, but that's what it is. So yeah.
What are these cars like to drive? From the outside, they look unbelievably hard to pedal.
They're not that bad really. Obviously there's no aerodynamics on it, so it's just all mechanical grip. So all you can do is really be as smooth as possible and then try not to overheat the tyres. As soon as the tyres overheat, that's it. The car, it is undrivable. The tyres get too warm, but no, they are good. They're great fun.
Great stuff. Well done, second place.
Spot on, thank you very much.
Nice one. Let's go to third place. Here we are. Let's go over this way to Rory. Now, Rory, we spoke a little bit earlier on. This isn't bad. It's not a bad day's work.
Yeah, honestly, pretty proud of myself today, and the team. We've done myself and BM Racing have really put a good car down today, and obviously good quali yesterday and a good first race yesterday as well. And you know, 2/3, you can't be upset with that. I mean, good points haul as well, and yeah, close racing. And I enjoyed myself, so you can't ask much more.
Was this more or less than you were hoping for before you came to Croft?
I knew from last year that I had quite a good speed around here, so I expected to be up near the sharp end. I hope for wins. I know we can win. We won earlier this year. But yeah, 3 podiums, you can't really complain about that.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
There you go, third place for Rory Smith. Let's continue this way and head down to our race winner then. Mind your feet as you go round here, because we've got a very happy Ross Martin, and understandably so. As we saw the scenes, I'm not sure if you saw, but as he was in the car and he pulled in, literally overcome with emotion. When you get up close and see these cars, you just get to see how amazing they are. Really incredible bits of kit. And we're going to speak to the race winner, Ross, in just a few moments. He's just doing another bit of media here. A lot of people want to speak to these drivers, and understandably so. This is some of the best racing you see, because the cars, single mate series, and the way they operate, the way these cars run, you do get to see the very best drivers winning these races. And with no Niall Murray, it does mean that other drivers do get the opportunity to step in and take the top step of the podium as well. So here he is, Ross Martin, race winner. Let's get a quick word from you. So much emotion when you pulled in. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. I don't think I've ever done a race like it. I don't know what to think going into. You know, starting 6th in a reverse grid race after 2 wins. You know, you don't need to take a lot from the last one, but I don't know, my mentality after the start, I was just fighting for it there, and I wasn't wanting to give up. And a couple of my moves were close, but again, no contact, no damage, and I'm over the moon to come away with that win. Definitely my best yet, and to do it with a gap as well. Yeah, I'm so emotional as well, as you can tell.
So what are you going to do for the rest of the day now? Now that you can rest up, or you're just going to, it will sink in at some stage. I imagine it's going to take a little while for it to really hit home.
Yeah, I've not got so long a drive home back home to Scotland, 3 hours time, but yeah, I think it will sink in later on when I go to my bed and wake up Monday morning at work and start looking at my phone again. But yeah, what an awesome weekend. I'm really over the moon.
Ross, congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Well done there. So we've just heard from the top 3 from the Formula Fords, and it promised to be a great race, and indeed it was a great race. We've got the TCR and the TCT coming up in just a few moments, so don't go anywhere.